The leader of the free world here in Connecticut addressing the graduating class at the Coast Guard Academy. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Keith Kuntz. We begin with team coverage of President Barack Obama's trip here to Connecticut today. We have team coverage of this event. News 8's Tina Detel is inside with the president and the graduates. News 8's Brian Spiros has reaction from those in and around the New London community. Let's take you out live right now to the Coast Guard Academy in New London, where the president is speaking right now. Let's listen.
The Coast Guard will need to factor climate change into plans and operations because you need to be ready. Around the world, climate change will mean more extreme storms. No single weather event can be blamed solely on climate change, but Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines gave us a possible glimpse of things to come. One of the worst cyclones ever recorded. Thousands killed, many more displaced. Billions of dollars in damage, and a massive international relief effort that included the United States military and its Coast Guard. So more extreme storms will mean more humanitarian missions to deliver life-saving help. Our forces will have to be ready. As Admiral Zukov already mentioned, climate change means Arctic sea ice is vanishing faster than ever. By the middle of this century, Arctic summers could be essentially ice-free. We're witnessing the birth of a new ocean. New sea lanes, more shipping, more exploration, more competition for the vast natural resources below. In Alaska, we have more than 1,000 miles of Arctic coastline. The United States is an Arctic nation, and we have a great interest in making sure that the region is peaceful, that its indigenous people and environment are protected, and that its resources are managed responsibly in partnership with other nations. And that means all of you are going to have to step up, because few know the Arctic better than the U.S. Coast Guard. You've operated there across nearly 150 years. And as the Arctic opens, the role that the Coast Guard plays will only grow. I believe that our interests in the Arctic demand that we continue to invest in an enduring Coast Guard ice-breaking capacity. I was proud to nominate your last Commandant, Admiral Papp, as our special representatives for the Arctic. And as the U.S. chairs the Arctic Council this year, I'm committed to advancing our interests in this critical region because we have to be ready in the Arctic as well. Climate change, and especially rising seas, is a threat to our homeland security, our economic infrastructure, the safety and health of the American people. Already, today, in Miami and Charleston, streets now flood at high tide. Along our coasts, thousands of miles of highways and roads, railways, energy facilities are all vulnerable. It's estimated that a further increase in sea level of just 1 foot by the end of this century could cost our nation $200 billion. In New York Harbor, the sea level is already a foot higher than a century ago, which is one of the reasons Superstorm Sandy put so much of lower Manhattan underwater. During Sandy, the Coast Guard mounted a heroic response along with our National Guard and Reserve. But rising seas and stronger storms will mean more disaster response missions, and we need the Coast Guard to be ready because you are America's maritime first responder. Climate change poses a threat to the readiness of our forces. Many of our military installations are on the coast, including, of course, our Coast Guard stations. Around Norfolk, high tides and storms increasingly flood parts of our Navy base and an air base. In Alaska, thawing permafrost is damaging military facilities. Out west, deeper droughts and longer wildfires could threaten training areas our troops depend on. So politicians who say they care about military readiness ought to care about this as well. Just as we're helping American communities prepare to deal with the impacts of climate change, we have to help our bases and ports as well. Not just with stronger seawalls and natural barriers, but with smarter, more resilient infrastructure. Because when the seas rise and storms come, we all have to be ready.
President Obama speaking live to members of the graduating class at the Coast Guard Academy this noon. If you would like to see his comments in their entirety, go right over to our website at WTNH.com.